Hello and welcome back to the Talk Healing to Me podcast. I'm your host, Karen Dwyer, and today's is an even minier mini solo episode. So if you tuned into Monday, you'll know that we dropped part one of my conversation with the brilliant Valeria Lopez. And wow, the feedback has already been incredible. But before we dive into part two next week, I wanted to come in today with a short and honest reflection on something that keeps coming up in our conversation, actually in our programs, in my inbox, on my social media, and honestly in my heart. And it's this. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Always consult your doctor. Views shared are personal and not a substitute for professional guidance. What happens when women don't put themselves first? So the pattern I see over and over. Let me start by saying I see it constantly. Whether it's in our MS to Success community, in our one-to-one sessions, in our messages from listeners, even in friends and family, there's this deep conditioning around putting everyone else first. Now, I don't mean to sound like a martyr, but I am going to be straight. We have been raised to care, to hold it all, to be the reliable one, the one who remembers the birthdays, the books, the appointments, makes the dinner, manages the emotions. And I know I'm being a little bit sexist here saying makes the dinner because I know there's a lot of people out there that make the dinner as well. So but let me talk about in the most part, or certainly the way that I grew up. I really get that women manage all the emotions as well, but all while quietly ignoring our own needs. And here's the thing. We're good at it. So good, in fact, that we're convinced that we're fine until we're not. And really, there's some science around this. And even Dr. Gabor Maté speaks about this beautifully. He says that chronic illness doesn't just arrive out of nowhere, it builds silently through stress that we suppress, emotions that we don't express, and boundaries we never set, needs even that we don't ever prioritize. And research really backs this up. Chronic stress, especially unprocessed emotional stress, disrupts the immune system. It dysregulates hormones and contributes to inflammation, which, as we know, is a major player in chronic diseases, especially MS. He also says that when the body says no, we don't. That hits me, and it still hits me now. Like, it hits me even harder when I see women pushing through fatigue or through pain or through guilt, all because they believe putting themselves first is selfish. I don't want to, like, I know I've said this before, but I don't want to sound like a martyr saying this, but I see it in different countries, in different communities. It's a common theme, and I've rarely seen a difference in it. I I want to talk about MS specifically and the gender gap. This episode of Talk Healing to Me is sponsored by Clean Boss, created by Joy Mangano, the legendary inventor behind the Miracle Mop and a pioneer in clean innovation. Clean Boss is a botanical disinfectant that kills 99.9% of viruses, germs, and bacteria. It's safe for food surfaces, soft surfaces, and baby high chairs with no toxic ingredients and no rinse required. It's also a degreaser, odor eliminator, and all-purpose cleaner that works as hard as the chemical-heavy stuff without the health risks. Check it out at getcleanboss.com/Karen for a clean, better, and living safer life. There's a 4-to-1 ratio of women to men diagnosed with MS. 4-to-1. That is not a coincidence. Women, especially those socialized to self-sacrifice, suppress emotion and power through, are far more likely to bear the load silently. And I'm not just talking about physical stress, I'm talking about the emotional load, those mental tabs that we keep open all day, the caretaking, the people pleasing, the perfectionism, the good girl conditioning. That emotional load doesn't just tire your mind, it taxes your immune system. I know. I know it. I've experienced it personally, and I see now how uncomfortable it is to set those boundaries. And I'll talk about that in another episode a little bit further down. But really, it slows healing. It builds up pressure like in a sealed jar until the symptoms speak louder than the words you were afraid to say. That's hard. That's hard to experience. But not only that, it's hard to keep all of that in because I see it. And it's people come to us when things get urgent or get serious, or they start to see, symptoms exacerbate, or they start to feel that sense of rock bottom. And then it's like pushed to, oh, well, I'll do something now. But before that, it's quite hard for people to say, oh, well, no, I'm going to prioritize myself now because maybe they might be feeling okay and they can kind of just get on with it rather than future proofing or rather than prioritizing those needs. But what does it mean to put yourself first? It doesn't mean abandoning your people. It means not abandoning yourself. It means eating when you're hungry, resting not just when you're tired, saying no when it's too much, or asking for help even when it feels uncomfortable. It means tuning in before you fall out. And I want you to hear this today. You don't need to earn rest. You don't need to prove your worth. You don't need to get all of your tasks done before you allow yourself to have a break. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to ask for your needs to be met, to pause, to feel, and to heal. I feel like I'm being a little bit preachy saying that, but I think sometimes we just need that little bit of feisty energy to say, F it. I'm actually going to say no to this, or I'm going to ask for somebody else to do this for me instead. Or actually, I'm going to have that difficult conversation and say, I'm not happy about how things are going and I want your help with this. And it's not to go and start arguments or to make people wrong. It's to have your needs met and to ask for them in a way that has you honored. So, on that note, speaking of honoring people, I want to share our client wins this week. Because you know what happens when a woman starts to actually be compassionate with herself and to put herself first? We see it each and every day in our MS to Success clients. So Dee showed up live at 7:30 a.m. her time zone. She is in the States in Pacific time zone, and she showed up for a call that we had, a movement call, 7:30 her time. I mean, how cool. That's a real shift, as in her words, from her usual energy and a big win for her follow through. Jay went to bed by 11 p.m., woke up naturally, had breakfast, and is still getting in and out of bed with ease using her left leg, which she did not used to be able to lift, which is fabulous. Zed is back to strength training, and her head feels so much clearer as she feels like she's treating herself like an athlete between meal prep and movement and mindset, which is fabulous. P is back to her daily long walks. Even when it's tough, she is showing up. B, I loved this one. She was walking up her sloped driveway with more ease. But also, she noticed that her garbage collector or trash collector, bins collector, as we say on my side of the world, um, really helped her out with something. And in the past, she would have felt like, oh my God, are they doing that because they've seen me, walking funny? But she really appreciated and was able to accept graciously that support and help. And it gave her a big smile, as well as all of us as well, hearing that. Dee restarted her movement sessions and is building back her momentum after her last chemo session. This human is fabulous. She's been with us for quite a while now, and she was able to reverse foot trap, get rid of a cane, and then had a cancer diagnosis. So she has been showing up, leaning in for support, and she's back to thriving and rebuilding her great health again. I'm just so proud of all of my clients, and I'm so happy for them getting these results. They're showing up, they're doing the work, and they're getting the just desserts for it as well. And it's not because they pushed harder. It's not because they pushed harder. Our program is about doing less rather than pushing harder. But they finally chose themselves. And this is what happens when healing starts from within. So, what is coming next? And next week, we're just getting started. On Monday, part 2 of my conversation with Valeria drops, and we go even deeper. We talk about the science of circadian rhythms, why late night snacking can throw off your hormones, and how to trust whether you need rest or movement, and how eating earlier, not less, can reset everything. Make sure you're following the podcast. Hit a little plus button or a like button, or to get alerted when it comes out if you haven't already. Leave a review if it resonated. Share it with your sister, your best friend, your work wife, and maybe send in your questions or reflections. I'd love to hear what landed for you. You can DM me on Instagram at I am Karen Dwyer, the same on Facebook, or you can drop a note to podcast@talkhealingtome.com. Remember, this isn't about perfection. It's about patterns. It's about showing up for yourself. It's about presence and giving yourself permission to matter. Until next time, slow down, tune in, and keep talking healing to yourself. Bye for now. Thank you to our sponsors of this episode. You can visit getcleanboss.com/Karen. And also a thank you to our video and podcast producer and editor, Aoife McNamara at Imagine Media. Thank you.